Welcome back to the Running Through Podcast YouTube page. My name is Justin Horniker. I have some hard news to share with you today. If you've been following the cross country, the running world, you probably already know about Akron University cutting its cross country program. Akron University, that is the alma mater of one Clayton Murphy in 2014. In 2016, Clayton Murphy famously won a medal, made the podium at Rio. So if these cuts were to happen, say, 8 years ago, there's a chance that there'd be no Clayton Murphy, that Donovan Brazier wouldn't have Clayton Murphy as a training partner, so maybe he doesn't reach his heights that he has. The butterfly effect, it goes crazy. Anyway, I wanted to kind of dive into these numbers because it really got me thinking. If an athletic program, if a school can cut a men's cross-country program, because we see it happen a lot. It happened famously to Richmond a couple years ago, and they brought it back. But a lot of times when these athletic directors are looking for cuts in their athletic budget, a lot of times they look at men's cross-country, which I think if one thing you say you're cutting a program, maybe it looks like you're cutting more money than you had. I looked into the actual spend that Akron would have to make in order for this to be feasible. Akron famously has to cut 20% from their athletic budget. They announced this in April, so some of that is COVID related due to decrease in revenue. A lot of that is they got in a ton of debt by overspending on their football team. They owe $4 million on their football team every year. It seems like an easy solution there, doesn't it? But they have to cut 20%. It rounds out to be about $6.97 million that they need to cut. So, cutting men's cross country, men's golf, women's tennis. Those aren't expensive sports for university. Focusing on men's cross country, I wanted to see how much this actually costs them. We're looking at scholarships, we're looking at whatever operating costs that you need, gear, salaries of the coaches. I estimated that it would maybe be, knowing that Arkansas spends $13 million on their track and field and cross country programs. I know Northern Arizona University spends about $400,000 on their track, field, and cross-country program. So that's one of the higher tiers, right? NAU is a smaller school. They don't have as many track field scholarships. They focus a lot on cross-country. I thought that Akron would be kind of similar to that. So my estimate was, maybe $300,000 to $400,000. Either way, that still doesn't add up to the $7 million that they need to cut. But my friends, it gets much, much worse. Akron coach Trey Brokaw tweeted out some numbers that they have $6,500 in operating expenses. That is extremely low. $6,500. That includes any recruiting, any traveling to meets, gear, all that sort of thing. 12 athletes, 2 pairs of shoes, traveling, a really low recruiting budget. So I took that $6,500 and I thought, okay, so what's that plus scholarships plus salary? I figured that probably have, give or take, 8 scholarships, salary of the coaches. That's probably around, $200,000, $100,000, $150,000. Inside that range, it's hard to account for scholarships and out-of-state tuition. Akron's going to cost between $13,000, $16,000 plus room and board. So that's kind of my addition there. However, Trey said they have 1.15 scholarships invested in the 12 men on the roster for next fall. 1.15. So that's about $20,000, $25,000. $25,000 plus $6,500. So you're looking at $31,000 plus Trey's salary and the coach's salary, which probably is, I would be shocked if it rounded up to $50,000 for the cross-country season. Because usually, as a college coach, you get paid. If you're a track, field, and cross-country coach, you get paid for both. That being said, so we're looking at not even $100,000. So Trey said 1.15 scholarships were invested in the 12 men on the roster for next fall. Not counting academic scholarships, their paid tuition would have brought in nearly $500,000 to the university over the next 4 years. Which seems like it's not worth it at that point. Because here's what you're doing. You're cutting men's cross country, you're keeping the women's team, you're keeping indoor track and field, you're keeping outdoor track and field. So you're really stringing yourself up. because Akron has a really good track and field program. It's one of their strengths is their track and field, and in the past their cross country program. It's had people like Clayton Murphy come out of it. But you're hurting yourself because you're taking away that strength as a team by having someone on the distance side. Now you get a couple more scholarships to put in towards the track and field side, but not much as it sounds like. And you're losing that potential diversity in your team of having that distance base, that sprint base, having everything commingling. That's what makes track and field so special. And then you just have a women's cross country team. It seems a little bit backwards. I don't know why you choose those three sports. So again, cross country, men's cross country, men's golf, women's tennis. You're going to save $500,000 in your budget. You need to cut $7 million. It doesn't make sense. They're easy sports to cut because there isn't a ton of investment in there. I get that. But you have a football stadium that you're $4 million in debt every year. That went 0-12 last year. That you're putting a ton of money that have been urged to not spend into. And yet, this is the cause of a lot of problems. But it's a double-edged sword because you have the sunk cost fallacy, and then football is the only sport that really can earn a lot of revenue for a university. So if you're looking at a turnaround into something that can earn you revenue, usually football, basketball, baseball, softball to an extent are like the four big sports that can actually bring in money. Usually cross country, track and field. If you think of Olympic sports, those are more for development of Olympic athletes and aren't necessarily gate driven as far as the money they're going to bring to university. They bring in some, but not much. However, when you think of the amount of athletes that these schools bring in, so usually a typical cross-country team may have 12 varsity athletes, but they also have athletes that aren't racing varsity, they're still on the team, they're still going to the school, that went there to run, but are paying, full tuition or whatever academic scholarships they're getting. The university is going to lose that. And it's a lot of times a cost that isn't thought of by athletic directors, or it seems short-sighted. A lot of times it just makes zero sense to me. And I've talked to athletic directors about this, and it's not an easy decision, but and I'm a little bit biased in my personal relationship to it, but it makes no sense that these are the sports that are cut. These sports that don't cost you very much money at all. Just to tell you about when I coached in college. So I coached at Akron University. We were a D3 school, so no athletic scholarships. But we were always on the edge. We didn't give out any scholarships. Our gear, we gave kids 2 shoes a season that we got at cost. So you're giving people $80 to $100 a season on that. Whatever travel costs are associated with going to meets, not much because we traveled a lot within the St. Louis area, so buses, and we stayed overnight a couple times a year. But for whatever reason, you always feel like you're on the chopping block. And there's some uncomfortability for sure. I'll share some videos down below, but some of the Akron University cross-country members have made some videos, have said some things that really tug at your heartstrings and make you realize that there are kids, athletes behind this decision that are hurt by this, that are going to have to really think about this place that they've made home for 1, 2, 3 years. Are they going to switch schools? Are they going to have to readjust and do something that they're not ready for? All because a athletic director wanted to save $100,000 on their budget. Things to think about. Let me know what you think below of this whole situation. I don't know, man. There's no real solution because they need to cut $7 million. But you also, to be an NCAA D1 athletic program, you need to have a certain amount of sports. So to me, you would want to keep the sports that don't cost you that much, plus football and basketball, and see if you can even out that number. There are also Title IX concerns and things like that, but it just not a lot adding up, and there's definitely a piece missing to this puzzle. So anyway, if you like this video, if you like what I have to say, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more like it. I'm putting out 3 to 4 videos a week now. Just giving my thoughts. When I'm done with my paper on this, I'm done with my piece, I will put that down below. It'll probably be a couple days after this comes out, though. So if you go down the show notes and there's no medium piece down there, it's because I haven't finished it yet. I've done all the research, but I'm waiting on a couple of interviews with people in the know of what exactly the dollar totals are and what that means for other universities, especially in the MAC. That seems